and welcome to this week's edition of Insight. Today on Insight, we'll be joining the world to mourn the passage of that great African son, an anti-apartheid icon and first black president of South Africa, Dr. Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela, who passed on last week Thursday at the age of 95. As the global community celebrates the life and times of the legendary Madiba, I'll be joined in the studio by former Nigerian ambassador to Libya, who is also a former chairman of the National Action Committee Against Apartheid, Professor Dambati Abdulkadir, and the Abuja Bureau Chief of Newswatch Magazine, Mr. Bisi Abidoye, to discuss what I call the Mandela phenomenon in the world history. The 10th day of December every year has been designated as the International Human Rights Day by the United Nations General Assembly. This day was marked all over the world on Tuesday. In furtherance of this, therefore, this edition of Insight will be taking a look at the significance of this declaration with particular reference to its observation in Nigeria. To answer questions on issues about human rights from both global and international perspectives is the Executive Secretary of the National Human Rights Commission, Professor Ben Angwe. Our media review segment will, as usual, take you through the print and electronic media as Ennington Okediji, your usual anchor, steps in to anchor this segment. Ennington, you're welcome back.
Thank you very much, Femi. It's good to be back. Good day, viewers. You're welcome to this episode on Insight. Later in the media review segment, I'll be joined by Mr. Bamidele Salam, a journalist and a media analyst, to look through the issues reported during the week. Once again, you're welcome. I am Ennington Okediji.
And I am Femi Adefila. When we return, our discussion segment is next. Don't go away. Welcome back. The world literally stood at a standstill as prominent world leaders across races and political divides viewed a man that has been described as the most outstanding personality of this century a final goodbye. Nelson Mandela, whom President Barack Obama described as a giant of history who lived a life like no other, now belongs to the ages. The question, however, is what lesson does the life of this great man of virtue and an apostle of forgiveness and peaceful coexistence teach the human race, especially African leaders? To discuss this issue with me today, I have in the studio Professor Ambassador Dambati Abdulkadir, OFR, former chairman, National Action Committee Against Apartheid, and former Nigerian ambassador to Libya. Probably welcome on the program.
Thank you.
Yeah. I also have the bureau chief of the Newswatch magazine, Mr. Bisi Abidoye, in the studio.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. I want to start from Prof.
Yes.
Your Excellency, I was made to understand that you met Mandela on one-on-one as a person, in your capacity as the chairman of the National Action Committee Against Apartheid.
Yes.
Now, what, in your view, are the virtues that made Mandela a true global icon and a phenomenon in history?
Well, what made Mandela a true phenomenon in Africa and the world at large, first is his humility. When I first met him, we shook hands, and the way he greeted me, it really took me aback. Secondly, if you discuss Mandela as a whole, his courage, his perseverance, his fearless action, his love for human beings, and his compassion. These are the things that really attracted people to Mandela and made Mandela what he is. He is a very great schemer, a planner, and somebody who knows where to go and how to reach where he wants to go. That's why Mandela succeeded, and that's why all African leaders should emulate these virtues of Nelson Madiba Mandela. A man of courage, a man of determination, a man of sacrifice, a man that suffered for others to enjoy their life.
Thank you very much. Now, Mr. Abidoye, The African political landscape is littered with dictators and, of course, sit-tight leaders. What set Mandela apart?
I think it was different in the sense that, if you remember, at his trial, he made that very great speech, the speech from the dock, and he said, I am not just fighting white domination, I am also fighting black domination. He said, I cherish the ideal of a democratic society where every person lives in harmony with each other, where people can live in harmony with each other and with equal opportunity. He says so while he was going to prison, they were going to sentence him. When he came out of prison and became president, he retained those ideals. You understand? He retained the same ideals. When the table was turned, he was no longer a prisoner. His people, the black people, they had secured the majority rule. But the same ideals that he was preaching as the underdog, he practiced it and remained committed to it with undiminished, undiminished commitment. So that's unique.
By him.
Yeah, that's unique. And I think those are some of the things that people saw, that he preached great ideas, not when he was the underdog, but even while he became when they came to power, he still said, look, my people, what you are agitating for, we should never deny any other. I mean, this, even though they were our oppressors. So those are the things that set him apart and then exactly.
Yeah, Paul. The great Nelson Mandela was a proponent of the theory of leading from the behind and let all the people, others believe that they are in the front. The followers be in the front. You lead from behind. What do you make from that?
Well, he wants to show to the world that if somebody really struggles for them, he should not come forward and claim that he has done it for himself. He has done it for the people, and it's up to the people to come out and choose their leader. So he puts them in front of him and lets them decide who leads. He doesn't even show that he wants to lead, but that's one of the philosophies that really impresses people about Mandela. In Africa, you can see that most people, they even want to reap where they have not sown anything, but Mandela is the opposite. He is the opposite type of person that will be going out looking for himself, but he always takes consideration of other people first before himself. That's the character of Mandela, and that's what made the whole world today really came and condoled the entire world for the death of Mandela. Look at the heads of state that came to Pretoria to condole.
Quite impressive.
Quite over 90 countries. And the three heads of state said they emulate Mandela, and Mandela is the reason or a citadel that catapulted them to their present position. That's the statement of Barack Obama, and the British Prime Minister, and the German Prime Minister. They said they have all been influenced by Mandela, and they emulated Mandela, and Mandela was like a kind of mentor to them in dealing with political matters in their different countries.
So indeed it was a gift to the world.
Yes, he was a gift to the world, a very good gift to the world. Let me say one thing. There are so many people that doubted the support of certain countries to Mandela. When in 1985 we took a tour of the frontline states, when Chimere Ikoku was then the chairman of National Committee Against Apartheid, and we went to places like Kenya, Zambia, Tanzania, Zimbabwe, Malawi, Botswana, Lesotho, Angola, all the places that we went to. people speak of Mandela as their mentor first. I met Oliver Tambo when we met him in Tanzania. He said when we started this struggle, we thought we are not going to make it. But Mandela said to him, I will quote him, there is nothing under earth that a person, if determined, cannot go up to the sun or even above the sun. Yeah. So our struggle starts now, and we will succeed, dead or alive.
And he did succeed.
And he did succeed. Yes, this is one of the things.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Prof. Now, Mr. B.C. Abidoye.
Yes, sir.
President Goodluck Jonathan, at a service that was held in honor of the late Nelson Mandela at Aso Villa Chapel, wondered aloud whether we can have a Mandela amongst Nigerian politicians. Do you have the same affirmation?
Yes. It is something that bothers everybody when you look at contemporary politics in Nigeria. Because, like Mandela observed, the leader, leadership is about a mission. It's a process pursuing a mission. And if you, as a leader, if you come in and then you do not correctly situate your own position within that vision, that mission, then you begin to look at yourself as maybe somebody whom God just has brought, and then your own will becomes the purpose of the mission and all that. You confuse your own position as a leader with the mission, with what leadership is all about. So those are some of the problems that we have here. In Nigeria, maybe because we did not have that historic conflict that they had in South Africa, that one was clearly well caught. You had the white who wanted to take over the land and then push out the Aboriginal group. It was an historic conflict. In Nigeria, maybe we didn't go through that process, and we do not have that sense of mission. So anybody who goes into politics goes with little ideas that they pursue, different from the sort of ideal that Mandela pursued. We have people who go into politics and maybe, I read one report, an article by Akim Bello, where he had an interview with Mandela, and Mandela was telling me about Nigeria that, look, your people, your leaders should stop confusing leadership with opportunity to enrich themselves. And you see, that is just the mission of almost everybody. When you go into politics, it is not the service that you have to render. It is not because you have a different perspective as to how we can improve things. It's just to enrich yourself and then make something out of it. So as long as it remains like that, and the people cannot enforce their will on our leaders, then it will be difficult to produce a Mandela, because Mandela, he saw the mission that was at hand, and that he had the conviction that he can take part in this, and he stayed committed to that throughout.
Thank you very much.
So it was different.
Prof, you are a very experienced Nigerian, and you were involved in this apartheid thing. And taking a look at Nigeria and going back to what Mr. Abidoye said, that because perhaps we didn't experience what South Africans experienced, are we going to have leaders that will be above board in all ramifications of it?
Well, he has said the mission and the vision of certain individuals. It is true, Nigeria, we got our independence on the letter of gold, and we have not struggled for it. Of course, let us be fair to our first generation leaders who have fought for our independence. You cannot even compare them with the present type of leadership, except in few cases that we have. If you talk about people like Chief Obafemi Awolowo, Nnamdi Azikiwe, and late Aminu Kano, these people suffered for their people to benefit from their suffering. None of them is bothered about accumulating money or building mansions or buying cars just to show. Most of them, these people that I mentioned, like Tafawa Balewa also and Sardauna, when they died and J.S. Tucker, they did not leave anything behind but their name. Nothing they left but their name. If you go to the places they all lived, you'll find out Awolowo has only one house. Zik has only one house, but later, even the house, I was told, he used it to build the university. And Aminu Kano, I know him very well. He used to be my mentor. He doesn't even have a bank account. Not a bank account. And the same with Sardauna and Tafawa Balewa. If you look at some of the newspaper reports, some few months ago, a British reporter went to Bauchi during the rainy season, and he was taken to the farm of Tafawa Balewa. He found Tafawa Balewa eating with the laborers that they work on his farm. These are the type of leaders that we had before. And this brought me, is a digression, to why Bayero University chose to give Mandela an honorary doctorate degree in 1989 when my humble self was the vice chancellor. Because we look at all these issues, and in the end, the chairman of our council, late Malam Yahaya Gusau, an eminent Nigerian, a man who has been tested in the civil service for his integrity. So we look at all these qualities, and we decided that we will give Mandela in 1989 based on what my colleague has said. And we became the first university south of the Sahara to give him Mandela, to owe him a degree. And when in 1990 he came to Nigeria, my vice chairman was Professor Alao, of Vice Chancellor of University of Lagos. He received him at airport on behalf of the government, and then they flew to Kaduna, where also I received, on behalf of the government, Mandela. He received a warm reception. And the speech he gave, he said he will never, ever forget Nigeria. That's why this is the second country after he was released from prison that was visiting to visit. He said people, he was helped financially, and he was given money to go to train his guerrilla teams in various places. In all those places that I have mentioned before, they have their camp for food, for doctors, for engineers, for nurses. I mentioned any profession in all these places. So they were ready to take up the government as soon as their time comes. So that's why when he became president, all these people that they have trained in various fields, they came and filled their positions. That's why there was no crisis of beginning. They were ready for it before.
Sir, I'm coming back to you. President Barack Obama said something. He said, now Mandela is gone, and it may be difficult to replace him, as it were. So that we should let his life and time walk our own life. What do you make of that?
That the ideas that we admired in him, that admiration should go beyond this period that we are mourning him. That we should let it reflect in our individual actions. Because when you look at him again, you are impressed that he was a man who led by example, personal example. As a leader, you realize that you only have a certain period that you can be relevant, that you can be effective, and that you should always look back at the youth, those people who are following you, and see when to integrate them, when to hand power to them. We are not seeing that, especially in our country. That's why you see 80-year-olds, people who have been this, who have been that, they are still struggling to exercise power, to remain in influence. And what Obama was saying is that if you admire somebody who fought for justice, who showed forgiveness, who encouraged understanding, you admire him, try to replicate it within the purview of your own influence too.
Yes.
That's what he's saying. That if we do that, then we make the world a better place,
Yes,
and then we
everybody
pay
is
the right homage to this great man.
Okay. Something spectacular about Mandela
Yes.
that I wanted to speak on, sir, is that after 27 years in prison,
Yes.
he came out and made friends with those people
Mm.
that persecuted him, that jailed him.
Yes.
What kind of a man was that?
Well, I think it is a very interesting thing when he came out of prison from Robben Island after 27 years. He developed the concept of forgiveness and tried to create a rainbow society. I think both Christian and Muslim, we have this kind of teaching that you will forgive and forget whoever insulted you or try to demolish you, but what you will have to do is to forgive, and the God will be on your side. And that's what happened to Mandela. He has forgotten even de Klerk himself, who released him. He said what surprised him is the forgiveness of Mandela and the compassion for others who maltreated him.
The Truth and Reconciliation Committee.
Yes, and he set up a reconciliation committee to go to reconcile the entire nation. And he said, everybody is Mandela. I'm not the king of South Africa. We have to build it together. This is a fantastic idea.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you very much. Yes, Professor Ambassador Dambati Abdulkadir, thank you very much for coming on the program. And of course, Mr. D.C. Abidwe, thank you very much. There has been issues on the late stage, global icon, and of course, a phenomenon in history, Dr. Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela. Up next is our special interview program. Don't go away. Welcome back. This week, Tuesday, the 10th day of December, was the International Human Rights Day. In fact, the world is still basking in the euphoria of that celebration. And back home in Nigeria, Nigeria was not accepted from the celebrations. With me in the studio this morning to discuss the essence of having a day for the celebration of human rights is the Executive Secretary of the National Human Rights Commission, Professor Bem Agwe. Prof, you're welcome on the program.
Thank you very much, my brother.
Let's start with this celebration. Why having a day for the celebration of human rights globally?
Yes, every 10th December, the international community celebrates this day. It is a day 65 years ago that the entire international community declared the universal human rights to all mankind. On that day, there was a universal declaration that every human being is entitled to fundamental rights, which needs to be recognized and respected. So for that reason, the whole human community recognizes and commemorates this day as a day that the whole world decided that steps must be taken, nations of the world must rise to ensure that human rights are enjoyed by all mankind.
Okay. In what ways is your commission assisting to uphold the tenet of justice as far as human rights is concerned in Nigeria?
First and foremost, let me give you a little background. Just as we commemorate the International Human Rights Day, this year marks 20 years that the United Nations General Assembly adopted a resolution that every nation of the world should establish national human rights institutions for the promotion, protection, and enforcement of human rights. It is for that reason that this year's celebration of International Human Rights Day was significant, because we remembered 20 years of the establishment of the Paris Principles which the United Nations General Assembly enjoined all member nations to implement. Now, this institution, the National Human Rights Institution, was established sequel to that United Nations General Assembly resolution. Nigeria, being a member of the United Nations, acceded to this convention, acceded to this resolution, and in 1995 established the National Human Rights Commission.
Okay.
At the time of establishment, the commission was not given its full mandate, probably because it was established by a military regime.
Okay.
So the full Paris principles were not complied with. But today, this commission is fully Paris principle compliant, which means that it operates as an independent commission with a clear mandate to promote, protect, and enforce the rights of Nigerians. Which then means that as far as human rights issues are concerned, this commission will ensure that every Nigerian and every human being living here in Nigeria understands and gets to know his human rights. That relates to the promotional activities of the commission, and ensure that every person must have his or her rights protected. And where there are violations, the commission must investigate and take decisions with a view to providing remedies for the violations. And where the decisions are taken, they are enforced as judgments of the High Court.
So, Prof, I'm sorry to cut in that.
Yes.
Does it mean that your commission engages in sensitization, mobilization towards galvanizing people to their fundamental human rights?
Absolutely. And this is aimed at enabling all Nigerians to know their rights and to rise to claim such rights.
Okay.
And where such rights are violated, we ensure that there is justice. Ensuring that there is justice here means that where there is an infringement of a right, there must be a remedy. And once we provide the remedies, then there is justice. And in this case, the Human Rights Commission ensures that every person who is alleged to have violated a right of any Nigerian or of any person living here in Nigeria must be called upon to answer for such violations. So in this regard, we ensure that there is justice, and justice does not respect any person. Whether you are a government official, or you are a rich person, or you are a military person, or you are in any form of force, you will be called upon to answer for the violation of the rights of any Nigerian. And it is in this regard that we have been saying that with regards to human rights violations, there is no immunity against any form of impunity.
That's good. Now, this general belief that Nigerians are not legalistic because litigation costs a fortune.
Yes.
Does that mean you provide free legal services?
Yes, the Commission provides free legal services. The Commission gives access to every Nigerian. You don't need to be educated to come to the Commission. You don't need the services of a lawyer to come to the Commission. And you don't need to bring a written petition before the Commission. All that the Commission requires that you do is to take yourself to the Commission, or send a text to the Commission, or call
a text,
or make a call to the Commission, or get someone to present a petition or a complaint before the Commission, or you can send us an email. Once we get to know that your rights are being threatened or are being violated, we will rise to the occasion to ensure that, one, we prevent the violation, or where it has already taken place, we ensure that we enforce your rights accordingly.
Do you do any arbitration, please?
Yes, we do arbitration. And in fact, I want to let you know that for now, about 1/3 of the petitions that come to us are resolved amicably through our mandate to reconcile or to mediate between the parties. And this happens
without making recourse to the legal process.
The legal process. But of course, we also carry out the legal process ourselves, because we investigate and we take decisions. We don't need to take the matter to court. We have the power to award damages, we have the power to award compensation, and we have the power to make recommendations to government or any institution or authority to stop a particular act that threatens the rights of any Nigerian. For instance, if any Nigerian comes to us crying, Timo, that is, I fear that my rights will be violated, we will rise and we issue interim measures that will stop such threats.
I fear that my right will be violated. Not that it has not been violated.
Even when it has not been violated, once you have that apprehension that your rights are going to be violated, then you can come to us, apply quite a met. That is when we say that when you come to us, you say, yes, you cry, Time. That is, I fear. Like, for instance, if government is threatening to demolish your house, you can run to the commission and say, oh, I'm afraid that they are going to demolish my house. Then the commission will issue interim orders stopping the demolition of that house until a proper investigation is carried out. When we now investigate and we find that the house is indeed about to be demolished without following the due process of law, we will now issue a direct injunction stopping that from occurring.
Yes. Now, women rights activists have alleged severally that there has been an upsurge in cases of rape and, of course, other women rights abuses. Are you aware of this?
Yes, I'm aware of this. It's not just because women rights activists have cried. The Commission today is inundated with series of petitions in respect of domestic violence, and a lot of cases of rape are coming to us every day. Even yesterday, I received a petition with respect to a guardian having carnal knowledge of a word in his custody, a child of less than 6 years. Sometimes we receive is on the increase. But the reason is because of the culture of impunity. That is what the Commission is trying to do now, to put an end to this culture of impunity. There are challenges here, and the challenges are responsible for the rise and the increase of this nature of violation. The problem is where rape occurs and the relations report the matter first, even to the police, and the police investigate and are about to prosecute, the same relations will come to the police to stop the police from prosecuting, because they are scared that this may stigmatize the victim. So the fear of stigma now prevents the due processes of law which would have ensured that the culprits are prosecuted and punished in accordance with the law. Now, most of such matters that also come to us are also prevented from going forward because the relations are scared of, one, social stigmatization, and then two, the other consequences that may result. Like, for instance, a woman comes to the Commission with blood everywhere, battered by the husband. When we want to take the matter up, when we want to prosecute the husband, the woman turns around and says, please don't prosecute my husband.
Because it's my
One, I don't want my husband to go to prison because he's a breadwinner. Or two, I don't want his family to say, oh, I'm responsible for the husband going to prison. So what is happening is that the Commission has now put in place a machinery whereby we will sensitize the victims, we will sensitize the general public on the ills and consequences of this domestic violence and such other violations like rape. Because the more you continue to condone, the more you continue to resolve these matters which need to be properly prosecuted, whereby people will now be punished, and this serves the deterrent. The fact that you want these matters resolved because you are afraid of social stigmatization of the victim or the consequences resulting from the feelings of the family members, then this culture continues on and on and on. And it is not good, particularly today, where the whole international community is trying to put measures to checkmate the spread of such diseases like HIV, AIDS, and so on and so forth. And besides that, it becomes so dehumanizing for any human being to be made to succumb to such sexual advances or forced to enter into sexual intercourse without his or her own consent. And the Commission is determined to put an end to this.
So, Prof, are you convinced that to stem the tide of this culture of impunity, that we have to rise above the apprehension of stigmatization?
Yes, two things need to be done. One, we must ensure that such culprits are prosecuted and punished. And two, we must give proper orientation to our people that there will be no social stigmatization, and that they should not be afraid of the consequences that will follow. Like, for instance, the husband's relations feeling that the wife is responsible for the imprisonment of the husband and so on and so forth. We need to sensitize our people. We need to educate our people. We need to tell our people that the best method of ensuring that this is brought to an end is to ensure that the people who are involved in this are punished, and this serves as a deterrent to the public.
Okay. It is believed that justice delayed is justice denied.
Yes.
Our prisons are full of awaiting trial victims.
Yes. I want to tell you on authority that more than 70% of Nigerians who are in our prisons today are awaiting trial. The National Human Rights Commission of Nigeria just last year carried out an audit of all the prisons in Nigeria. We came up with the facts, we came up with the figures, we shared these facts with the requisite stakeholders, the Minister of Interior, the Nigerian Prison Service, Minister of Justice, and we have also written to the National Assembly so that the National Assembly needs to quickly put in place legislation that will bring this to an end. The problem is directly linked to, one, the inability of the states to prosecute the offenders timelessly. And this in itself is a violation of the rights of the people concerned. Our Constitution gives a presumption of innocence to every Nigerian who is accused until the court proves such a person guilty. In a situation whereby you keep somebody awaiting trial for a period of 15 years, and many Nigerians have been awaiting trial for over 15 years, and they, at the end of the day, they are discharged for being innocent by the court. There is no amount of compensation will compensate for the time lost by these Nigerians and the bitterness. So the Commission is not also stopping at just bringing out a report, sharing the report with the government. The Commission, as I speak to you now, has engaged the services of legal practitioners who have agreed to work on pro bono basis with the Commission to institute civil actions for the enforcement of the rights of these Nigerians that have been kept in prison for more than 5 years without trial. As we speak now, the actions are in court. We are going to enforce their rights, and we are going to claim damages on their behalf.
So do you believe that the judiciary is overwhelmed?
The judiciary is not overwhelmed in that case. There are a lot of factors. First, if you go to Kuje prison here, Kuje prison is supposed to service over 90 courts. Kuje prison does not have more than 2 vehicles to convey these prisoners to the various courts. Across the country, you find that most of the prisons have only 1 vehicle. Most of the times, these vehicles are not serviceable. And one prison takes care of not less than 50 courts. Now, you have a situation whereby this 1 vehicle needs to take these prisoners to all these courts, and the courts must commence hearing every day or sitting by 9 o'clock. That's a challenge of its own.
That's a logistic nightmare.
That's a logistic nightmare. What we have done as a commission, we have written to all the controllers of prisons all over the state. They should give us a data of how many vehicles they have, how many courts they cover, and how many trips they are made to undertake every day to take the prisoners to the awaiting trials to the various courts. We are collecting this data. Once we get the data, the commission will write directly to the president, draw the attention of the president to this. I'm very sure that if the president gets to know or is aware that our various prisons don't have vehicles to take prisoners who are waiting to the various courts, the president will do something about it. And then secondly, you find that most of these persons await advice from the DPP. Sometimes it takes 3-4 years for the DPP of a state to bring the legal advice. And 2, when the legal advice comes out, sometimes it takes another 2 years for the information to be properly filed before the court. It is for that reason that the commission has decided to sue all the state governments that delay these processes.
You done that?
Yes, the actions we're initiating are against the various state governments. Now, if the various state governments are made to pay compensation to these Nigerians who are being made to suffer unjustly in the prisons, why they are still not yet condemned to be guilty, then the state governments will not sit up. The problem is that if you go to the various ministries of justice, some of them are understaffed. One lawyer would be made to give legal advice to over 100 accused persons, and it takes time. And sometimes they don't even have facilities. I was discussing with one chief judge of the state, and the chief judge told me that sometimes the Minister of Justice have to come to them to type legal advice, which way they don't even have computers, they don't have the requisite facilities that will enable them to do their work tirelessly.
So, in one word, the travels of awaiting trials languishing in our prisons.
Yes.
We don't just start yesterday. It's been there forever. What is the solution? It's just in one word.
The time has come for this to be brought to an end. The National Human Rights Commission of Nigeria is assuring Nigerians that this will come to an end, and this must happen, and it must come to an end. Nigerians must be treated like other nationalities all over the world, where there is justice, where somebody is not kept in prison for an undetermined period of time. He's not sure when his trial will commence. He's not sure when he'll be properly sentenced. There are some people who have been in prison for 5 years and not been even arraigned in court. Some of them have not even been taken to court even for 1 day for over 3 years. This cannot be allowed. This is torture on its own.
On the last note, Prof, the cases of extrajudicial killings and jungle justice is becoming very rampant.
Yes.
Are you aware of this?
Yes, we are aware of this, but this requires attitudinal change. Most times you find people accusing security agencies of carrying out extrajudicial killings. But I want to say here that this is not limited to even security agencies. You find people being killed every day in Nigeria today by unidentified persons. Sometimes we call them terrorists. These kinds of killings are also extrajudicial killings. So it is taking place across the country. One, by these insurgents. Two, by mob actions. And then three, you talk about the security agencies. So it has become a societal problem which requires a holistic approach. A holistic approach means that we must also sustain Nigerians, one, to believe in our criminal justice administration. Two, to also cooperate with the police when they have issues that require some form of prosecution, so that they don't take up the action against these people themselves under self-help. And then three, we have started the collaborative activities with the security agencies, the police, the Nigerian army and all that. We have started the training of police officers to not change their attitudes. And then we have also agreed with the Chief of Defense Staff that we will also train some military officers who are going for such activities. Now they are willing, they are ready to cooperate. But again, there's a problem with the society itself. When insurgents come up with sophisticated arms, then people find justification in retaliating.
Thank you very much, Prof.
Thank you so much.
We wish you well.
Thank you very much.
And best of luck.
Thank you.
Yes, that has been the Executive Secretary of the National Human Rights Commission, Professor Ben Agwe, on our special interview section. Up next is Media Review. Don't go away.
Welcome to the Media Review segment on Insight. Joining me to take you through the newspapers this morning is Mr. Bamidele Salam, a journalist and a media analyst. You're welcome, Mr. Bamidele.
Thank you very much.
How are you today? You look good.
I'm good, thank you, and you too.
Thank you. Okay, so this week it's been all about Mandela, the late Nelson Mandela, may his soul rest in peace. What do you think about the coverage? Particularly, I must commend This Day and The Guardian newspaper. They did a very good job, great images. But what about the electronic media like the Channels TV? What do you think about the coverage?
Well, I actually think, on a general note, the Nigerian media has been very excellent in the coverage of the Madiba passage. I had an opportunity of watching a few channels, Channels Television, the African Television, and the TVC. And I saw a lot of, on-the-spot reportage of events right in South Africa from the day Mandela's demise was announced and, the public reactions. And like you already said, the print media, I've also had the opportunity of reading some very excellent, materials, news analysis in The Guardian, This Day, in particular in The Guardian and This Day. I read some very wonderful news analysis and a recapture of memorable events of Nelson Mandela's lifetime. So I think, on a general note, it's been a very wonderful coverage by the Nigerian media of these very great global events.
So yes, this leads me to the next question on which is still on Nelson Mandela's memorial. Leadership on Wednesday reported that Nigerian was shunned at the Mandela Memorial. Do you think so?
Yes, I actually read that story too, and I think, examining the circumstances, that surrounded Nigeria's participation in the anti-apartheid struggle and the role Nigeria played generally in ensuring that Nelson Mandela, was set free from prison, there was a lot of expectation from the average Nigerian about how, much role this country ought to play at the, funeral rites of the late Madiba. So I think it's a reflection of the general feeling, because if you also do an analysis of the content of, expression of views, especially on the social media, you will see that this same sentiment, have been expressed.
But a group of people still think that, it wasn't just the Nigerian president. There were other presidents who did not have the opportunity, or who were not given the opportunity to
Well, that's true, but if others don't complain, maybe Nigerians feel that they ought to have a more central role to play in that event, which personally I also think Nigeria ought to be given a more central role. If only one
and this is because they supported, them during the struggle.
Because to whom much is given, they say much is expected. That's my thinking.
Okay, let's move on to the Daily Sun. It led with a headline on Wednesday, December 11th, that NNPC refutes CBN claim on non-remittance of $49.8 billion.
Yeah.
Also, it's on the Nation newspaper on that same day. It led with a story saying 48 billion naira missing, oil money. Governors insist on probe. Now, what do you think about these two headlines? Do you think that there should be a conclusion that the 49.8 billion naira has been unremitted?
Well, actually, I read that story, and it was called from a memo purportedly written by the central bank governor, alleging that this sum of money, wasn't accounted for by the NNPC. But I am of the view that the next day, when the NNPC issued a refutal of that story, it did not also gain enough prominence as the main story. And, that leaves the reader with an option of, assuming that, well, maybe the refutal was not that necessary. I know there was even a particular
paper. It was the Leadership, December 11th. It said, it actually, I have it here, and I quote,
exactly.
An outrage trails $49.8 billion unremitted oil revenue.
Exactly.
Do you think that, should it be concluded that this sum of money...
Yeah, that's where I'm going. I actually think it's wrong for the leadership to have had that kind of an headline.
Okay.
If the... this unremitted or
unremitted, that's what they use.
If it were have been maybe put on in inverted comma,
just like
or
the
they said,
did.
just like the nation did,
missing,
or they said allegedly unremitted funds. But they appear rather conclusive that money was indeed not remitted. These are issues in the public domain. Somebody has said it's white, another person has said it's black, and there hasn't been a conclusive proof of which one is really factual. And I thought, the media is supposed to, on the same issue, the media ought to
NNPC
the fair hearing. That is my view, and that I think is in line with the principle of balancing in media reportage.
Okay, that's fine. Let's move on to the next story. Actually, this is a new newspaper. It's called The Federalist.
Yeah,
it came out yesterday. It was added to the list of our national dailies. Have you read it?
Yeah, I saw The Federalist.
What do you think about it?
Well, to start with, I think it's a great thing that the publishers have this very, very succinct and topical, title for the table, The Federalist. It's something I was just wondering, how did it come about this? And content-wise, I can say that it's a newspaper that's likely to go places, because I can see a number of news stories, articles, and other write-ups that will set agenda on the concept of true federalism. I read the editorial policy.
Is that the main focus of the newspaper?
Yeah, according to the editorial policy, which is on that, running from the front page there, it's supposed to be a newspaper that will articulate issues around, the quest for true federalism and the Nigerian Federation and issues, adjoining that. And I think it's a very great concept. Although I also think that in terms of the print, the newspaper can do better, to have a better color separation and maybe a larger font for the title of the newspaper. Apart from that, it's an excellent piece, and I think it's a good addition to the stable of Nigerian newspapers.
Okay, we'll look out for them. So let's go to the last question now before we wrap up. As a media expert and as a journalist, what do you think that our media practitioners should set? What sort of standards do you think that they should set in reporting developmental issues in Nigeria?
Well, journalism is a global trade, it's a global profession, and there are some time-tested principles which, no serious practitioner should toy with. The principles of truth, factuality, balance, and even if the newspaper has a set agenda, which almost all media organizations have, it still has to put them within the context of these, major principles. Nigerian, media houses have been trying, to be very sincere, but there are still a lot of room for employment. For improvement,
more to be done,
especially in the aspect of objectivity and balance. If you have a set mind or a set perception or perspective on an issue, it doesn't need to become too apparent, especially by blocking out or shutting out alternate views. This area I think we need to do more. Apart from that, I think on the whole it's not been too bad with media practice in Nigeria.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bamidele. It's been great having you here.
It's a pleasure.
And I'm happy to have you some other time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We've come to the end of the media review segment. I hope you had an insightful time with Mr. Bamidele Salam. Thank you for joining me. It's always my pleasure to host you on this interactive platform. I am Eniton KDG.
This is the convenient spot to draw the curtain of today's edition of Insight. Thanks for being part of the program, and please do enjoy the rest of your day. Anytime.
Remember, you can watch us on YouTube. It's called the Insight Program. Thank you for watching. Do have a great day. I am Eniton KDG.
And I am Femi Adefila. See you next week.